Mara Smith, welcome to the Powerhouse Women Show.
Thanks. So nice to be here.
Well, I have been following your story and your brand, and it's so impressive what you've been able to accomplish in a short period of time and also given when you launched, which we're going to talk about. But let's start first with, can you tell us a little bit about Inspiro? What is it? What is the company? What inspired you to start?
Yes. So Inspiro Tequila, it's an additive-free tequila brand that is distilled, owned, and led by all women. So what led me to starting a tequila company, even though my background is nothing in the tequila world, as as a former attorney and then worked in corporate strategy and then stay-at-home mom. Really a couple things. I've been a tequila drinker for years. That's been my kind of clean spirit of choice. I've been gluten-free for like over a decade. So when I was looking for just a lower sugar, kind of better for you option in an adult beverage, I started drinking tequila. I discovered though that all the tequilas I was drinking contained additives. I didn't realize that before, but when I started researching the category more, so I searched for a brand that was additive free, but that really had like a look, taste, aroma, and messaging that appealed to me as a thoughtful female consumer. I didn't find that and started really delving into this, into the tequila world, into spirits, and then found out that actually about half of tequila drinkers are women. Women make about 80% of all purchasing decisions. And
Mhm.
I was kind of
Mhm.
perplexed as to why brands don't focus on this really important consumer. So I frankly saw a really big market opportunity there to address this consumer in, a category where she's not typically spoken to.
Mhm. And it's so interesting because I've just, as you were talking, I was jotting down some notes. And one of the things I was thinking as you talked about what inspired you to start was basically that you didn't see a solution for something that you knew you needed and that other women wanted as well. So I jotted down that the idea of like, this is necessity is the mother of all invention, right? Like, this is another great example of that, which are some of the starts of amazing brands, right? So many amazing brands started in that way. Can you talk a little bit though too about this added, I feel like you had this added layer or hurdle that you had to overcome because you launched your brand in February of 2020, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. And oh my God, that is like, what a difficult way. I mean, I can't imagine how many people did the same thing, started companies right around that time and just said, you know what, I'm gonna just shut it down. You didn't do that. Can you talk about the experience of launching in February 2020? How was that timing useful and how was it incredibly difficult?
Yes. So that's a great question. And yeah, I had the impeccable timing of starting company in February 2020 before the world shut down. So I'm going to say first the difficulties with that. Obviously, many difficulties for so many companies. For me in particular, was that I couldn't get to Mexico for production.
Mm,
It was closed down. I didn't actually get to Mexico for our first tasting until May of 2021. So I was relying on people through Zoom and picking a distillery over Zoom, talking to my master distiller over Zoom,
mhm.
and waiting to get these like samples sent to me, which takes a long time. And everything, shipping, everything was just horrific.
Yeah.
Um, so in fact, our first production run, I finally got our samples. I was so excited. I was like jumping up and down excited, tasted it and was like almost in tears because I didn't like it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this is after waiting for so long. Um, they didn't follow like one very small specification that our master distiller had as far as how long the agave should be cooled before it was milled and fermented. And it affected the taste profile and I didn't like it. So here I was like, oh my gosh. But the good learning out of that was, some people had recommended, well, maybe we take that and another run and we just combine them. And I said, I don't want to take something that's not good and something that's good and create something mediocre. I just don't want it at all. So we literally got rid of we didn't use any of the entire first
Oh
run.
my
So,
God.
which set us back like 6 more months and obviously a financial setback. But
Oh, wow.
it just showed that, like, for me, Having the quality there is just so important,
Mhm.
and making sure it's something that I really, really, we talk about me creating something based on what I was looking for. So I have to love it. Like, first and foremost, the benefit I think for me that I found in, during COVID was that I was able to connect to so many people that I don't think I otherwise would have been able to talk to. So
Mhm.
pre-COVID, had it required an in-person coffee meeting that ends up being 2 hours by the time someone drives there and meets with you and gets back.
Mm.
But because Zoom became so commonplace, I could reach out and connect with and people had a little more time on their hands too.
Yeah.
I could reach out to so many people.
Yeah.
That's how I created an entire community of like
Mm.
amazing female founders and leaders, because I would reach out and then they'd introduce me to someone else and I'd reach out to them and connect with them and just try and learn as much as I could. Um, and because people would be willing to give me, if it's, half hour of a Zoom, and they could be back to
Mhm.
their regularly scheduled day. So I found that particularly beneficial for me, just the access that I had to people that I would otherwise not have had access to, especially I was re-entering the workforce after being a stay-at-home mom
Mhm.
for many years. I had,
Mhm.
no network there. So the fact that all these people were willing to take time, and it was a little bit of an easier ask of, do you have a half hour to share on a Zoom?
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm so in awe of the fact that you decided to, even though it was a small specification, you said it was just how long the agave was cooled before it was milled, right? That difference, that slight difference, which probably was known to you, but maybe I don't know. I don't know if it would be known to that many other people. It was a slight difference in taste, and you made the decision to say, no, this is not the taste of this product. Obviously, is a critical part of what it is because it's a product you consume. It needs to be what I said, and even if I am going to lose money, I'm going to lose time, whatever it is, we're going to do it right. Do you feel that that choice of going for the quality where you wanted it is something that you carry through in other decisions that you make as an entrepreneur?
Yes. So I'm just very detail oriented and kind of meticulous. Probably too much so, in fact, because there's certain things I'm trying to like let go of that I don't need to like rewrite every single thing that goes out. Um,
Mhm.
but my background is like I have an accounting degree, and then I practice law, and transactional law, lots of contracts. So I am just very meticulous about every detail.
Mhm.
So I think that's just
Mhm.
how I approach this also. Um, Even the bottle design, that was like a labor of love. My mom and I were going back and forth on piece of paper, like everything about it. Everything was thought through. The logo has like meaning
Mhm.
behind it. The shape
Mhm.
of the bottle being easy to hold in the middle, so it's easy to hold and pour. Like
Mm.
everything was just very
Mhm.
thought through.
Yeah.
And so here we have this gorgeous bottle. I really want to make sure that the juice inside the bottle matches the bottle and how
Mhm.
gorgeous the bottle is. Um, and also because I set out purposely to create an additive-free tequila, but that was approachable and easy to drink, so sippable tequilas.
Mhm.
That's hard to do without using additives. So usually they use that to
Mm.
get sweeter tasting notes,
Mm.
um, by adding flavoring. So
Mhm.
because that was really the goal, the taste profile and getting that right, getting the aroma profile on it
Mm.
and the taste profile were really essential to bringing something that's differentiated to the
Yeah.
market.
What has the feedback been? I had the chance to try the tequila last week at an event that we were at together, and I thought it was delicious. I am curious what you're hearing from women and other people. But I know that women are a key target. What are
Yes.
you hearing?
You know what? Well, first of all, that's like my favorite part is actually watching people taste it. I'm always like looking at their face and wanting to get, feedback. So what's interesting is whenever we do events and like events like that, I always ask people to try it neat first. Just try a little sip first. And many women are like, no, 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 I can't drink tequila. I need like straight, like it has to be in a cocktail. Just try it. So that's always, I feel like my first test is like try it so you could see just how easy it is to drink. Yes, it works really well in a cocktail, but I feel like trying it on its own to see like the character that's in it, that it has very little bite, that it goes down really easy, super
Mm.
smooth. So I always love starting that way. And that's like the best piece of it is that people are like, oh, wow, yeah, I could drink this. Like it is sippable. I could throw it on some ice or add a splash soda. So I love hearing that. And we get great feedback when people taste it like that neat. Our cocktails are always amazing. So, but I feel like in a cocktail, it's easier to maybe, hide something that's not as good a quality. So we try and create cocktails that really the tequila will shine through. So not a lot of sugar, just really clean, fresh
Mhm.
cocktails. Usually I think the drink you had there, like we do like some muddled mint and have a little soda water. And we do very minimal, like that one didn't even had any, we had no simple syrup added. We had no agave syrup added, like nothing. So just trying to do fresh light. So it really like you realize that you can actually drink tequila in a really like clean way.
Mhm.
So, but I'm always really excited because the feedback has been great. And usually once people try it, that's like their go-to tequila.
That well, that's awesome, and I love that as the maker of this product, you are so in touch with what people are saying about it, that you're looking to understand how people are reacting to it. That's the best way to improve it, right? In terms of what you're hearing from the people who drink it. So you started your career as an attorney, as we said, you also have the accounting background. How do you think that prepared you for entrepreneurship?
It's interesting. So I talked to a lot of groups of lawyers. And I actually love being in front of groups of lawyers. I spoke to like the Women in Law Coalition, Chicago Bar Association. I love it because I think often, listen, I was really myopically focused on my career. And I was like, okay, I go from, undergrad to law school to a big law firm. And like, this is what you do. And I don't think I ever thought of myself like as very entrepreneurial at that time and probably very risk averse, to be honest. But I think when I go and speak and show that like so many of the skills you learn are directly applicable to running a business, or a startup, right? I had to learn to be like super efficient with my time, which is
Mm.
very important in the startup world, right? I'm wearing a lot of hats. How can I like manage everything? So super efficient with my time, negotiation skills. I think
Mhm.
we talked about being very detail oriented, being
Mhm.
on top of all those things. So I think comes from the detailed part of it perspective, but I also think there's a level about that with strategy. So I
Mm.
think I can come in and I feel like look at a really good kind of like overview and higher level strategy. And I think I learned some of that from my legal days as well as honestly copywriting. So
Mm.
why was I
Mhm.
rewriting initially like every single social media post that went out? Because like I was very well trained, probably a little too formal. My writing is probably like more, business formal
Mhm.
writing. I'm
Mhm.
not as
Mhm.
casual. So now I let other people handle that because I probably don't have the right tone when I write things. They're going to come across like very, very business-like.
Mhm.
Um, but even that, like being able to and not feeling scared about that. So I'm constantly doing applications. I'm applying for things. I'm submitting to pitches. I'm doing and just being able to manage that and be able to do all those things on my own,
Mhm.
I think has been helpful. And clearly, there are so many legal pieces, especially in the spirits industry, where we're talking about the laws from 1933 post prohibition, and that
Mm.
every state has different compliance laws and regulations.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
navigating that,
Yes.
it's very complicated. I feel like it was maybe a little less daunting for me because of my background. I felt like I could do the research and wrap my head around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know a little bit. I know we've talked about this. I know a little bit about the spirits business, how it's also still considered a controlled substance. There's also a very specific tiering of how it has to work in terms of who's involved with
Yeah.
getting, from making the product to getting it in front of a consumer. There's a very set process for that. And I can imagine that having a legal background would help a lot with it. In terms of entrepreneurship, what has been the most enjoyable part to you, and maybe the most difficult in terms of you were surprised by it, didn't necessarily think that this is the way it was going to be?
Yeah, I think the best part, honestly, are the connections I made. So I was in
Mm,
a room with you full of like amazing women. All of those times, I look at that as like an opportunity. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in a room of incredible women, and I'm like a sponge. I just want to learn as much as possible. So for me, the huge learning curve has been
mm,
very exciting for me. I just
mhm,
like to learn. I call
mm,
myself like a learn it all and not a know it all.
mm.
And I feel like every single day there's something I'm learning. So that part, I think it's more than I ever even anticipated as far as like the people I've connected with and the learnings.
Oh my God.
Maybe
Yeah, sorry. I was
yeah,
just gonna say, Mara, I love what you that the learn it all versus the know it all. It's so great, and it's such an appropriate thing for entrepreneurs, because I do think one of the things I see as a consistency of entrepreneurs is a curiosity, like
yeah.
wanting to continue to learn. So I love that. Sorry, I that was
Thank
that
you.
was
No,
the
I
good.
appreciate that.
The
Um,
difficult. I think that's what you were about to talk about.
yes. So the piece that obviously I knew there were going to be like a lot of hurdles and ups and downs. I don't think I realized just how time consuming, how much the operations and logistics piece of it would
Mhm,
be. And
mhm,
we're talking about working with a foreign country and everything. And
mhm.
there are a lot of things that have to get done as far as like logistics and operations.
Yeah.
I do have help now and help managing that
Mhm,
because I don't think I had an understanding of just like how much of my time that
mhm,
could occupy. And
mhm.
I kind of need to be able to do other things also.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think that was
yeah.
kind of a little eye opening for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think often about how I spent the first part of my career in corporate America, and I thought I worked really hard. And then I started my own business, and I remember realizing that there's this whole other element, not just the doing of the working, but the share of mind, like how much of your sort of mind is filled with the work. And when I was working in a corporate job, I think you can turn it off a little bit easier, but when it's your own company, it is so much harder to turn that off. It's like it almost like a running, it's always kind of there running in the background, even when you're not like immediately doing something that's work related. And I kind of have
Yes.
started to liken that to almost a share of mind, and it just takes up a bigger share of mind. I think entrepreneurship takes up a
Yes.
bigger share of mind maybe than
It's always running through
other.
my head.
I'm
Yes.
sorry?
And yes, it's always running through my head. I wake up in the
Mhm.
night thinking of ideas. I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd work more than I did when I was as an associate at a huge law firm in Chicago,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
definitely work more now. So
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
not, it's definitely you have to be willing to go all in because
Mhm.
and the time commitment. I don't, at least for me, I don't know how to do things like just a little bit and like dip my
Yeah.
toe in. I'm like, when I'm all in, I'm all in, and it is. It's a lot. It's exciting because you're building something and seeing something that
Mm.
created come to life.
Mhm.
But it is, I mean, yes, your brain doesn't turn off, the work doesn't turn off,
Yeah.
and it can be like very all consuming.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing that I found too in that switch from when you work for a more established company versus starting your own thing is that in some ways it's like the options are way broader like you could choose to do a lot of different things when it's your own thing, and learning to say yes to like what are the things I should be focusing my time and energy on, and what are the things that I should say, while this might be really interesting, it's not for right now, it's more 2 years down the road or whatever. That was another thing that I think for me personally, and for other entrepreneurs I've talked to, it's harder when you've been in a structured role at another company for a while to kind of see that when you start your own thing, the possibilities are almost endless, and you have to get really good quickly at saying, okay, what am I going to use my limited resources, my time, my energy, investment, all of that on as I build this thing.
Yes, it's very hard to prioritize and figure out because you want to like look at everything and take in all like everyone who reached out. I'm like, oh, I want to see what are these concepts. I mean, I'm not going to say yes to everything, but like looking at all these different things. I also have been trying to live a little bit more by the quote, the Sarah Blakely quote, that if someone could do something 80% as well as you can, let them do it. So there are definitely
I
things
love that.
that don't really match my skill set, and I'm trying to give up control and let someone else manage that because frankly, they can do better and at least 80% as well as I can, if not more.
Right, and
And
it will get
and
done.
unloading that. Yes.
Mhm. It'll get done. It may not be exactly as you would do it, but I agree with you, because I think as, a lot of us who, start companies, especially I think the women who I've met who've started companies, we maybe really, want it like we want to be the A students at it, right? We want it to, we want to make sure it's like it's right. But sometimes it is so much more important to get something done, even if it's not exactly the way you would do it. And what I've learned over time about this part is that I actually have found that other people's ideas in this, even if it's not 100% the way I would have done it, their ideas actually make it like different and better in another way that I wouldn't have expected. And letting go of like just learning to let go and say, okay, I trust that this person's going to do it, or these people are going to do it, and it'll get done. It might not be exactly the way I would do it, but it's the way they're going to do it, and the inspiration that they get by being able to do that. Like that, I don't think I took into account as much before I started my own business. How much other people who work with you, who are inspired by what you're doing, who want this to, want what you do to be successful, how much they get out of doing it the way that works for them. You know what I mean? And that was an aha moment for me, as I when I started my business and learned that I had to let other
Like
people kind
listen to
of
other
do the job.
voices. And it's hard. I think that's why it's important to surround yourself with people who like really see your vision and
Mhm.
understand, the values and what we believe in as a company. And that if they're aligned on that and understand,
Mm.
what's important to me, everyone knows that like being really transparent, being really authentic and things. And so like making sure that when they bring me concepts or ideas or, you know, handle things on behalf of Inspiro Tequila, that's always also in the back of their mind so
Yeah.
that we're aligned. And I think once you know that, the people you're working with kind of understand that,
Mhm.
then I think that
Yeah.
works.
I know that there's so many questions that I would love to ask you, but I know we're kind of limited. So I want to ask you one thing that I love asking everyone who comes on the show, which is, what do you wish that you could tell the young Mara that was just starting out?
So I think I, for me in particular, starting out like on my career, getting out of college, I would say just to keep your eyes open and look at like
Mhm.
all the different options. So as we talked about,
Mhm.
it was just I was risk averse. I wanted stability. I was, as a little girl, wanted to be a Supreme Court justice. So there's no more stable job than that, one that you have for life. So then I went
Right.
into accounting and I said, you go from accounting and then you get your CPA and you go to good law school. And then from law school, you get to a big law firm to pay off your law school debt. So I think I was just really like kind of tunnel vision and very linear. Not that it wasn't great. I got great experience, but I never like looked at like all of these other things out there, right? There were other things out there besides being an accountant or a lawyer. Then I
Mhm.
went to corporate strategy. That kind of opened my eyes to like broader corporate world and all these different functions and roles.
Mhm.
Um, so that's what I would tell myself is like, look outside of that.
Yeah.
And because if your eyes aren't open to it, you don't see where all those opportunities may be. And you
Yeah.
never know, you kind of like are so shut down to it that you don't see what may cross your path and become an opportunity.
Yeah. I love that. That is great advice. Well, if you think 2 years down the road, where do you wanna see yourself in the brand in 2 years from now?
Really, I want women to recognize it. I want them to know and say, "Oh, Inspiro Tequila, that's the tequila I drink." So when people see it
Mhm.
out there and out and about, that that they know it, and not just they know it, they like it. That's their drink of choice, but also they know about the story behind it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I heard this was started and it's distilled, owned, and led by all women, and they give back to other
Mhm.
women. Like, I want them to have like I want there to be some meaning behind it. So when they see it, they like have not just seen the tequila bottle, but they know something about the brand and the story behind the brand.
Well, that I love that, and Mara, thank you so much. I know you are incredibly busy. I am so appreciative that you spent this time with us today. If people wanna find out how they can get a hold of, buy some of the brand, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yes. So we ship online. If you go to inspirotequila.com, we ship to 45 states. And then we're opening up state by state slowly. So if you're in the Illinois area or Michigan, you can find us at your local retailers. But otherwise, on inspirotequila.com, obviously we're on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. That's my platform of choice. So if
Mhm.
you connect with me on LinkedIn, um, I will respond also if you DM me. So I usually respond to everybody. And then you can follow Inspiro Tequila on Instagram on at Inspiro Tequila.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're taking the time to be with us.
Thank you